The wind off the lake always had a way of bringing me peace. After 30 years of working construction under the blazing sun, my wife and I bought a quiet piece of property tucked at the edge of Cedar Ridge Lake. It wasn't much at first, a patch of land with a rotted dock and a tired-looking cabin. But it was ours. No HOA, no neighbors telling you what color your shutters could be. Just open water, pine trees, and the kind of silence that felt like freedom. I rebuilt that cabin with my own hands, expanded it into a lodge-style home with exposed beams, a big porch, and a fire pit that looked out over the water. It became our dream spot. My wife, June, planted flower beds and painted the front door red because, she said, every home needs a bit of boldness. For 10 years, life was quiet. Just us, the loons on the water, and the occasional fishing buddy stopping by. Then came the HOA. The new subdivision on the other side of the lake had started small, a handful of modern homes with matching mailboxes and rules for everything from lawn length to mailbox height. But soon they grew greedy. They called it Lakeside Preserve, and suddenly half the people around the lake were members whether they wanted to be or not. Their president, a sharp-tongued woman named Karen McMillan, seemed to think her clipboard gave her divine authority over the rest of us. It started with letters. First, one appeared taped to my gate. Dear property owner, as a member of the Cedar Ridge Lakeside HOA, you are required to maintain shoreline standards as per HOA guidelines. I laughed out loud. I wasn't a member of any HOA, never signed a thing, never agreed to join. I tossed the letter into the fire pit and thought that was the end of it. A week later, another letter arrived, this one stamped and more aggressive. Failure to comply may result in fines or property access restrictions. That one made my blood boil. I called the number at the bottom. A woman answered in a tone so cheerful it made my teeth hurt. Lakeside Preserve office, this is Cheryl. Cheryl, I said slowly, I don't belong to your HOA. You got the wrong guy. Oh, she said, clicking her tongue. Sir, if your property borders a lake, you're within the HOA's jurisdiction. It's part of the new expansion plan, approved by the county. Ma'am, I replied, I bought this land in 2008. The HOA didn't even exist. You can't just add me like a gym membership. She gave a rehearsed little laugh. Sir, we'll have someone reach out to clarify. And they did. 2 weeks later, I was down at the dock replacing boards when a white SUV with HOA logos rolled up to my gate. Out stepped Karen herself, mid-50s. Perfectly pressed suit, sunglasses that looked like they cost more than my outboard motor. Behind her came 3 board members holding clipboards. She didn't even knock, just opened the gate and started marching up the path. Excuse me, I shouted. This is private property. She barely turned. Good morning. I'm Karen McMillan, president of Lakeside Preserve HOA. We're here to inspect the Lakeside boundary line. You're not inspecting anything, I said, walking toward her. You're trespassing. Karen stopped in her tracks, lifted her glasses, and looked at me like she was dealing with a child who'd broken a vase. Mr. Walker, as a member of this community. I'm not a member, I interrupted. Well, she continued undeterred, the new zoning map includes your property in our oversight area. That means we're responsible for ensuring all lakeside lots maintain the aesthetic standard. That dock, for example, she pointed at it, doesn't meet code. I felt my jaw tighten. You mean the dock I built on land I own, 10 years before your little HOA existed? Her smile was plastic, but her tone was sharp. We're simply enforcing community harmony. You'll need to submit improvement plans and pay the $300 compliance fee. I took a slow step forward until she realized she'd walked right past a no trespassing sign. Karen, I said calmly, get off my land. Now. She blinked, then turned to her board members. Take photos, she said briskly. We'll need documentation. That was it. I reached for the gate control on my phone and closed the steel gate behind her SUV with a loud clang. Hey, you can't lock us in, one of the board members yelled. Oh, I sure can, I said. And I can call the sheriff to remove you for trespassing while I'm at it. Karen's composure started cracking. This is harassment, she barked. You can't threaten HOA officials. Lady, I said, pointing to the gravel under her heels, this isn't HOA land. This is my land. You're the trespasser here. The sheriff arrived 20 minutes later, and the look on Karen's face when he sided with me was pure gold. He told her flat out that unless there was a deed restriction or signed HOA agreement, she had no authority over my property. Karen's jaw clenched so tight, I thought she'd crack a molar. This isn't over, she hissed as she stomped back to her SUV. I thought maybe, just maybe, that was the end of it. But HOAs, like weeds, don't die easy. A few weeks later, I started getting letters again, not from the HOA this time, but from the county zoning board. They'd been alerted to supposed unregistered construction on my property. Someone had filed complaints about environmental violations, unapproved septic installations, even noise complaints. It didn't take a genius to figure out who was behind it. June wanted to just ignore it, but I couldn't. That lake house wasn't just property. It was 30 years of sweat, my retirement dream. So I started digging. After a few long days at the county clerk's office, I found something interesting. The HOA's expansion map had been filed but never approved. The county board hadn't signed off on it yet because the survey boundaries overlap multiple private lots, including mine. In fact, the HOA's own document stated their jurisdiction ends at the original Lakeside Preserve Development line. I smiled. When Karen showed up again 2 weeks later, she brought reinforcements, this time the entire HOA board, a county code officer, and even a landscaper with measuring equipment. They pulled up like a parade of self-importance, parking right in front of my lock gate. Karen shouted to the bars, "Mr. Walker, this obstruction violates community access laws. You're restricting public lake access." Public. I laughed. This isn't a park. It's a private lake easement, and the public isn't welcome unless I invite them. She tried waving some papers. This document clearly states that you intend to expand your HOA. I interrupted, but it hasn't been approved. You're trying to enforce rules on land you don't even govern. The county officer looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. McMillan," he said quietly, "he's right. This boundary map isn't official." You could have heard a pin drop. Karen's face turned red. "That can't be right. We had it notarized." The officer nodded. Notarized doesn't mean approved. Without county signatures, it's just a proposal. Karen's voice went up an octave. "So you're telling me?" "I'm telling you," I said, leaning on the gate, "that this is still my land, my lodge, and you have no business here." Her composure finally shattered. She started shouting about community image and property values and non-compliance. The board members behind her looked mortified, trying to calm her down. A couple even stepped back toward their cars. And then came the part I'll never forget. June had been filming the whole thing from the porch. When Karen started screaming, "This man's obstructing HOA jurisdiction," June called out sweetly, "Smile, Karen. You're live on Facebook." Karen froze. The officer coughed to hide a laugh. "Ma'am, I suggest you leave before you make things worse." The HOA board scattered. Karen stood there, trembling with fury, then stormed back to her SUV and peeled out so fast she kicked gravel against her own tires. By the next morning, the video had spread across town. Local folks loved it. HOA Queen loses it on private landowner. That's what one guy titled it when he shared it on Reddit. A few weeks later, I got a letter, not from the HOA, but from one of their own board members. He apologized for the harassment and said half the neighborhood had voted to remove Karen as president after her meltdown went viral. As for my lodge, I went ahead and put up a new sign at the gate. Private property, not HOA. No soliciting, no trespassing, no exceptions. That was 3 years ago. Karen never came back. Sometimes, when the evening light hits the lake just right, I sit out on that red door porch with June and think about how far we've come. Freedom's a funny thing. You don't always realize how much you value it until someone tries to take it from you. Owning land isn't just about space. It's about peace of mind, the right to build, to rest, to live without someone knocking on your door with a clipboard and a list of rules. June likes to tease me. Says I got more satisfaction from locking that gate than from finishing the roof. Maybe she's right, but I'll tell you what, that gate doesn't just keep out trespassers. It reminds me every day that some fights are worth having. Because sometimes standing your ground isn't about defiance, it's about dignity. And the view from the porch that night, with the lake catching the last light of sunset, made every second of that battle worth it.